Hello friends, welcome to Sporty Affairs. I'm Mithilesh and I have Narendra with me.
Hey.
Today's topic of discussion would be cricket and we'll be discussing about ICC Test Championship.
Let us start with the background of how this idea of whole Test Championship started.
Well, this idea began in 2009. In 2010, the then ICC CEO Harun Lorgat proposed the idea of this Test Championship where he said that we will be having this championship between four teams. However, due to some reason, the discussions didn't go through, and in 2013, this idea was completely scrapped.
After going back and forth, finally ICC decided that in 2017 the playoffs will be starting, and in the final in 2021 the two teams will be playing at Lords for the World Test Championship crown. On 29 July 2019, ICC officially inaugurated the World Test Championship with the first Ashes series. There are total 9 teams participating in the current ICC Test Championship. Australia, England, Bangladesh, India, New Zealand, South Africa, Sri Lanka and West Indies.
Now you guys might have known about a little bit of history about this championship, how it came into existence and also the number of teams participating in it. Now let us throw some light on how the point structure of this championship would be decided, like how the top 2 teams would be decided. So as my friend Narendra said that the championship took place between 2019 to 2021. So the point structure should be very well calculated so that no other teams find that there's been injustice done on the amount of tests they have played. So ICC came up with a unique proposition to allocate 120 points for each test series. So this means that even if you play 2 tests, 3 tests or 4 tests, the maximum number of points which you can win is 120. Now you may ask that how is it possible? So it's very simple maths basically. So let us assume that there are just 2 tests being played. So like I said, the total number of points can only be 120. So each test would be divided into 60 points each. Now what happens in the case of a draw? So in case of a draw, the number of points which both the teams would share would be 1/3 of the number of points allocated for that test. Like in our case, since there were 2 tests being played, so the number of points for a draw would be 1/3 of 60, which is 20 points. Now they also had a proposition what happens in the case of a tie. Fun fact, there are only 2 tied tests in history of test cricket right now, but still they wanted to keep the option open that we might see few more ties in the future. So in case of a tie, the points would be equally shared. Now that depends on the points of allocated for that particular test, which is 60 when there are 2 tests being played. So the number of points in case of a tie would be 30 points each. It's pretty simple maths if you take into consideration. Like for 2 tests, there will be 60 points for each team. For 3 tests, like the total number of points are 120. So there will be 40 points at the grabs for each test. 3 test scenario, like I said, in the tie situation, the points would be halved. So suppose there are 3 tests being played between 2 teams, there will be 40 points for each test. Now, in case of a tie, there will be 20 points shared between both the teams. In case of a draw, there would be 1/3 of 40, which is 13 points shared between those 2 teams. Similarly, you can do the math for number of 4 tests, 5 number of tests, etc., etc.
Okay, since there are only 5 months left for the final of the Test Championship, let's discuss what tours are remaining. So India just concluded its tour of Australia and won the series 2-1. At the time of recording, on the 25th of January, England concluded its tour on Sri Lanka and won the series 2-0. So as Mithilesh explained that there were 2 matches, and in each match England received 60 points because they won both the test matches. The fun fact about Sri Lanka versus England is that in the second test match, the first inning of Sri Lanka, all 10 wickets were taken by England pacers and 0 wickets were by the spinners, and in the second inning all the wickets were taken by spinners and none by the pacers. And that's the first of its kind in a test match. So it's kind of a good ending for that test series. So next up is South Africa touring Pakistan. In Pakistan, they will be playing 2 test matches. West Indies will be touring Bangladesh for the 2 test matches, and from the 5th of February, England is coming to India as they have finished with their tour of Sri Lanka, and they will be playing 4 test matches in India. And with the current COVID circumstances, they are playing at just 2 venues, 2 test matches each. The next one is Australia touring South Africa, but since Australian Cricket Board is concerned about the COVID restriction and COVID bubble guidelines being followed in the South Africa, because South Africa will be just ending their tour in Pakistan and returning back home to host Australia. So it will be interesting to see whether those test matches will take place. Otherwise, Australia's remaining test matches for this World Championship will be over. And the final 2 series are for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka will be traveling to West Indies, and then Bangladesh will be coming to Sri Lanka for the last 2 test matches.
So as my friend Narendra discussed about upcoming tours, let's take a look at what the current standings are for these teams. Now, when we mentioned about the number of points scored, so that's not the final calculation on how the table is calculated. So the table is calculated from the percentage of points won. Now, which means that suppose a team has contested for 100 points and it won, let's say, 80 of it. So the percentage of points which the team won is 80%. Now, suppose there is another team which contested for 200 points and they could win only, let's just say, 100 points. Now 100 points are more than 80 points, but the percentage of the contested points which the second team won is just 50. So even though the number of points were higher for the second team, they will be second in the table as compared to the first team. So this is how the point structure works. Like, you may end up having the most number of points, but it's not necessarily you will be at the top. So on basis of that, let's take a look at the current standings. As you can look at the current table, you can see that India is at the number 1 position after they have won 71.7% of points, followed closely by New Zealand, Australia and England. So as you can see in the table that the number of points and the number of percentage of points are so less within the top 4 teams. We have a feeling that the Test Championship race would go right down to the wire, because we have an upcoming tour between India and England, and based on the COVID circumstances, Australia will be touring South Africa. So in those 4 tests which India will be facing England, there are about 480 points up for grabs, whereas in the 3 tests which Australia is contesting, there are 360 points up for grabs. So it will be interesting to know how this test table looks like 2 months from now. Sadly enough, for New Zealand, they don't have any upcoming series. So New Zealand should just hope that Australia and England lose the remaining series for them to have any chance to play the ICC Test finals at Lord's. So in this video, we discussed about a Test Championship. Do let us know in the comment section below what did you think about this video and what more would you like to hear about from us. So this is Mithilesh signing off from SportFS. Goodbye.